It's late afternoon. You're standing in the kitchen, phone in your hand, staring at something simple. Maybe it's a message you've been meaning to send. Maybe it's a form you already filled out. You tell yourself you'll do it in a minute. Not now. Just not yet. The feeling isn't panic. It's quieter than that. More like a pause that keeps stretching. You might notice it when you're about to start something small. Something that doesn't even feel that risky. And still, your body hesitates, like it's waiting for a signal that never quite arrives. Why does it feel like there's always a better moment coming? What you may be running into is a waiting habit. Not laziness. Not confusion. Just a pattern where action keeps getting postponed until things feel clearer, calmer, or more certain. In this video, we'll slow down and look at why that habit shows up, what it's quietly protecting, and how it shapes your days more than you might realize. A waiting habit is when you delay starting or deciding because you're looking for a moment that feels fully right. Not perfect. Just safer. Calmer. More settled than now. The problem is that moment keeps moving, and you stay paused with it. One common reason is that waiting once worked for you. At some point, pausing probably saved you from something uncomfortable. Maybe speaking up too early led to tension. Maybe acting fast once ended in regret. Your mind learned a simple rule: waiting reduces risk. Over time, that rule sticks, even when the situation no longer calls for it. The pause becomes automatic. You tell yourself you're being careful, thoughtful, responsible. So when a chance comes up, you delay just a bit. And then a bit more. Not because you can't act, but because waiting feels like the safer choice you already know. Sometimes, it comes from mistaking readiness for certainty. For a lot of people, ready quietly turns into I won't feel uneasy anymore. You're not waiting to understand the task. You're waiting to stop feeling unsure. But uncertainty doesn't fade on a schedule. It often sticks around even after you start. So you wait, thinking clarity will arrive first. You reread the email. You think about the conversation again. You tell yourself you'll know when it's time. What's really happening is that your mind is asking for emotional comfort before it allows movement. And comfort keeps asking for one more condition. Over time, another layer shows up when waiting becomes part of how you protect your self-image. Starting means being seen in the middle of things. Not finished. Not polished. Just in motion. If you wait, you can imagine doing it well someday. If you act, you have to face what it actually looks like right now. So waiting feels cleaner. Safer. Less exposed. You don't say I'm afraid to start. You say I'm just waiting for the right moment. And that sounds reasonable enough that no one questions it. Not even you. Here's how this can look in real life. It's a weekday morning. Maybe around 9:10. You're sitting at your desk with coffee that's already gone cold. There's a project you've been thinking about for weeks. Nothing dramatic. Just something that needs a first step. You open the document. You scroll. You tell yourself you'll start after one more thing. One more email. One more thought. The hours pass. The day fills up. And by the time evening comes, you feel that quiet heaviness. Not failure. Just a dull sense of I didn't move. You replay it in your head. Tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will feel clearer. If you've been there, you're not strange. You might know someone who lives like this. This is what a waiting habit looks like when it blends into everyday life. It doesn't shout. It just quietly keeps you parked at the edge of things. The tricky part is that waiting often feels productive. You're thinking, planning, considering. You might even feel busy. But nothing actually shifts. And over time, that creates a subtle disconnect. You start to feel like time is moving faster than you are. Like opportunities pass without making a sound. This isn't about motivation. A lot of people who wait are deeply invested. They care. That's part of the problem. Caring raises the stakes. Higher stakes make waiting feel wise. But there's something else here that often gets missed. Sometimes waiting isn't about the task at all. It's about how you learn to relate to yourself. If your experience has taught you that mistakes carry weight, your mind learns to delay until the risk feels minimal. If you learn that being wrong has consequences, you become careful with beginnings. So waiting becomes a way to stay aligned with who you think you are, thoughtful, measured, not impulsive. The cost is that beginnings never quite fit that image. They're messy, awkward, incomplete. And a waiting habit quietly keeps you from having to sit with that discomfort. One gentle thing that can help is noticing what you're actually waiting for. Not the task. Not the situation. The feeling. Pause and ask yourself, what would have to change inside me for this to feel like the right moment? Often, the answer isn't something concrete. It's I'd feel calmer. Or I'd feel more sure. Or I'd feel less exposed. Naming that can matter. Because it separates the action from the emotion. You start to see that the task is doable now. The feeling just hasn't caught up yet. Another small shift is choosing a beginning that doesn't try to count as the real start. Instead of starting the project, you open the file and write one sentence that no one else will see. Instead of sending the message, you draft it without pressing send. This works because it sidesteps the waiting habit's favorite demand, finality. You're not committing. You're just moving a fraction of an inch. That small movement can loosen the pause. Not because it removes doubt, but because it proves you don't need the right moment to exist before motion begins. There's also something worth saying about identity. Waiting often sticks to people who see themselves as careful, considerate, or responsible. People who don't rush. There's nothing wrong with that. But when that identity becomes rigid, it can quietly block you from acting unless everything aligns. You're not breaking character by starting imperfectly. You're expanding it. And sometimes, seeing that is enough to soften the grip of the habit. Because sometimes this pause isn't a flaw. Sometimes it's your mind trying to be respectful of risk, even when the risk is small. Understanding that can change the tone from frustration to curiosity. You're not asking why can't I just start? You're asking what is this pause trying to protect? That question alone can create a little space. So if you've been waiting for the right moment, it may not mean you're stuck. It may mean you learned to be careful in a world that didn't always feel forgiving. The waiting habit can make life feel suspended, like something important is always about to begin. But beginnings rarely arrive wrapped in certainty. They usually show up as ordinary moments that don't feel special at all. A quiet Tuesday. A lukewarm coffee. A message half written. And sometimes, that's all the moment you get.